And hello again. Welcome to the Mark Osler Retirement Experience. My name is Randy Cook. I'm here each week with Mark as we talk through some of the issues of what's going on in the stock market, what's going on financially, the economy. But really, what it all boils down to is what's going on with you, what's going on with your 401k, the way you're saving for retirement, and how that's all going to fold into you walking away from your job, and somewhere along the line, all of this is going to pay you in retirement. How does that all work? You need a little help along those lines, and that is why Mark is here. Mark, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Randy. I hope you're well.
Yep, very good, very good. We're in the mid part of the year here. Gosh, it's slipping away on us here. Before you know it, we're going to be putting up Christmas stuff. It's crazy. But, it goes by quickly, doesn't it?
It does. And, some people do that whole Christmas in July thing, too, as well. I don't really prescribe to that one. But, truthfully, Randy, it's a great time of the year for me because my kids do go to school throughout it's not year round. So basically they're a calendar year. So my kids are off during the summer. And for me, that was my childhood. I enjoyed having the summers off. It was fun for me. I had a great time. We're not going to talk too much about that, though, okay? We're going to get more into these financial matters, right?
Yeah, there are people in the world that they structure their career, teachers and such, that they get the summer off, and that's awesome for them. But we're working hard still for you, and we're going to continue to work hard for you because we know that there comes a time when you're going to finally just kind of say, hey, it's just time to talk about this. It's time to put something down on paper, and that's really why we have this show, is that Marcus here. He's been helping people for an awfully long time to help you plan for retirement. How does that all work? And that's kind of what we talk about here. And I think it's interesting that as we get into our late 50s and into our 60s, we start looking at markets more than we ever have in our life, which is kind of where we are going to start today. Mark, you and I talked about in April how the market went down violently. It went down like 20% in 2 weeks. And then it came roaring back, and now here we sit, and it's, at its highest point of the year. And I looked at that, and I found a study from MIT, and it said if you were a person that got jumpy back in April and said, that's it, I'm pulling out, this is it, Trump's tariffs are screwing up the economy, and I'm going to sit this one out, and you pulled your money out, and you went to cash. And then the market came roaring back. According to MIT, people who pull out of the stock market, 30% of them pull out for good. They don't want any part of it anymore. So if there was somebody who's listening to us right now who kind of went jumpy during April, and now here we see the result of this, what's your message to them? You can't time the market. That's an easy thing to say. But what do you say to somebody who's really nervous about the ups and downs?
It's just a matter of your risk tolerance. So we talk about this on the show quite a bit. And what I want to address here more than anything else is what's appropriate for each individual person. Because everybody's risk tolerance is different. It depends on your age. It depends on what you feel you can and can't handle. I meet folks out there that come into me and they say, oh, I've got a 60-40 portfolio. Okay, that's great. What does that mean? And what does that mean with regards to your future retirement income? What does that mean with regards to what you want with regards to returns? All of these things have a specific need or purpose for what you want to accomplish, right? So let's just say you're in the market and you're scared to death. Well, if it drops and you just pull right out, you could miss back on the carry back up, right? Mm-hmm. Remember COVID? Remember 2020 when the COVID dip? They called it the COVID correction. It was just too short to actually be a correction. But if you jumped out, you would have lost a bunch of money. And that's the thing. If you're in the market, we need to have discussions about tolerance. So for us, we use a group called Market Guard that we believe in. And we also do some of our own weights and measures with regards to investing. And we like to talk to people about their risk tolerance and understand what they want to accomplish. So one of the first places we start, Randy, is looking at your assets, looking at your investments. Let's just say you do have an investment portfolio, whether it's a 401k, an IRA, or just individual accounts. Well, the first thing we'd like to do is run a report. And this just kind of gives us an idea of where you're at. And then we just try to identify from there what your risk tolerance is like.
So one of the things I think needs to be made plain, and that is the market can be at different levels of risk. You can be in hedge funds, you can be in Bitcoin, you can be way on that end of the scale, and you can also be in utilities, and you can be on the other end of the scale, or you can find yourself right in the middle, or you can find a happy place. And so markets don't need to be as scary as some people think they are.
They don't. And that's the thing. So the question is, do people understand the level of risk? So one of the things we look at when we analyze a report is something called beta. So beta gives us an understanding of risk. And general rule of thumb is when you look at the S&P 500, the beta is an even 1. If you look at NASDAQ, QQQ, that's a beta of 1.1. So that gives us an understanding of volatility. Okay. Now, if you just take one of our market guard models, let's just say the pure equity model, that beta is actually 0.865. So when you look at that beta, that can surprise people. That's a good thing in the sense that here we are, we're able to get some really good returns, based on what you want to accomplish in your portfolio, yet it seems like we're also taking on a little bit of a lower level of risk. And that's just based on volatility. So that's just one example of one of the things that we do when we look at a person's overall portfolio. And that's just because stocks and ETFs are spread across several sectors. So that matters as well, Randy.
So we talk about that 60-40 portfolio all the time, and then people should dial back their risk as they get into retirement. Maybe your risk level is completely opposite. It's 40-60. So 40% is in more of the conservative, not market volatile kind of investments. 60% might be in the market, the other way around. And if you lose 50% in the market, and you have 40% of your money in the market, that means you're down 20% overall on your portfolio. And that doesn't sound as bad. And it sounds like I can kind of recover from that. So having that mix and finding that place, and that's really a conversation, isn't it? It's figuring out who that person is who walks through your door. They may have a great appetite for risk, or they might not want to have anything to do with this market at all.
That's correct. And when we look at this and we analyze what you want to accomplish now versus in retirement, what do you have? Do you have 10, 15, or 5 years left before retirement? This is a conversation we have to have. Now, if you give me some time, you give me 10 or 15 years before retirement, I promise you I'll be able to help you along the way. We can look at, analyze where you want to be now, 5 years, 10 years, and then, of course, in retirement. And we also want to see you be able to do the things you want to do in retirement. So, hey, you want to buy a boat? That's great. It might be the first, it might also be the last boat you ever buy, right? But truthfully, we want you to go travel and do those things, because the things you do in your 60s, you're not going to probably want to do in your 80s. And it just changes and flip-flops. But I will say this, if you're wondering if you can retire or not, usually we can answer those questions for you of can you and when you can.
You're listening to the Mark Osler Retirement Experience. You can find us online at moreToRetire.com, and there you'll see our process there, and it really just starts with a conversation, and that's why we give out the website and we give out the phone number. That triggers a conversation, and there is no charge certainly for that. And just saying, hey, this is what I'm concerned about. This is what I'm worried about. I hear things about Social Security, all these different things that you're probably worried about. Let's get them out on the table, and let's figure out where we can help. Here's our number. Here's our website, moreToRetire.com. Again, moreToRetire.com, or 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984. I want to just follow up on that one thing, because there's somebody listening to us right now that's doing the V8 thing. They're hitting themselves right in the middle of the forehead going, I goofed up. I goofed up. In April, I decided I would take my 401k and I'd go to cash. And I pulled out of the market, and I missed the run-up. And now here I sit, and I don't know where to get back in. And this is that lesson of you can't time the market. To that person, what do we say? Do we ease our way back in? Do we try to buy the dips? What do we do to try to move ourselves back in a little bit so we can take advantage of what looks like a pretty good market right now?
All right, so let's just take, for example, a 60-year-old person. And let's just say they had $500,000 in the market, and now it has dipped to $400,000. They don't know how to get back in. They have 5 years before they retire because they want to retire at the same exact time of getting on Social Security and Medicare and all of those things. So this is just a little example here. Well, the question is, how much money do you need to retire on? How much income do you need to retire on? Because guess what? You have hurt yourself by pulling out, and it happened. It's already in the past. So are we going to sit there and just try and time the market again? No. What we're going to do is realize what your level of risk is and figure out, because there's a chance that you might need an annuity with some of this money. And what would you use an annuity for? Well, several things. An annuity could be used for a way to get a multi-year guarantee annuity rate that's similar to a CD, but you can go 5 or 10 years and the rates are generally higher than CDs. You could be looking at a fixed indexed annuity that maybe has certain underlying preservation tools that makes a big difference in your life because you're not going to lose what you worked your whole life for. And then maybe an annuity could be for income. So maybe it's for future income planning 5 years from now. So we look at that and try to analyze if that's a need or not of that $400,000 that's left. Then how do we make up the rest? So the question is where your level of risk is. Now, annuities also have bonuses too. The bonuses might be able to potentially make back some of the losses you had in the market as well. And we can discuss that too. And this is a really important conversation to have because I'm not going to sit here and time the market. I'm going to properly allocate you based on what you tell me your level of risk is based on all of our conversations. And if I think that we should put some money in ETFs, if I think we should put some money towards pure equity, if I think we should put some money towards structured notes. Structured notes are another way that, let's just say if you want to break up what we call correlation, which is things moving in the same direction, an annuity or a structured note, they both do the same thing as they break up correlation. So that might be a need in your portfolio as well. So of the $400,000 that's left, we want to specifically tailor this to you to make sure that we get you the right retirement income 5 years from now when you go from 60 to 65. Make sure that you're satisfied with your level of risk and figure out how we can get you on a nice trajectory for growing your money again as well. So these are all the conversations we have, and we want to answer those questions for you. So for me, I'm not going to sit there and time it and try to get you back, because if you lose 20%, you got to make 25% to make it back.
Yeah. Consider this a lesson. I mean, it's like, don't touch the hot stove. Okay, you touched the hot stove, you got burned. And what are we going to do now? We're going to learn our lesson here, and maybe some more of your allocation now goes to something that is not up and down and does not have that roller coaster effect like you have figured out that you don't like. Give us a call. Let's talk through it. Let's figure out where the best place for your money is according to your risk tolerance. Give us a call. 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984 or more2retire.com. So we talk about all the forces that are after your money. We talk about taxes, and we talk about the markets, and we talk about fees and all these different things. But what's amazing to me is how much this potentially can take away from your retirement. And there's an article that I read, and this is actually from the Department of Labor, that it says 1% in financial fees can lower your retirement savings by 28% over your retirement. I heard Tony Robbins say 1% in fees can take away 10 years of retirement money. Those are shocking facts. So as you look at it, let's just say we'll take that $1 million that we always talk about, $1 million in your 401k. 25% of that is going to go in taxes. 25% of it might go in fees, which means you've got $500,000 left. Of all that money that you've saved, you get to enjoy half of it. And I hate the thought of that. But is that really how it works out, Mark? And can you do anything about that?
Yeah, Randy, one of the things out there, I'll say, because we talk about annuities a little bit here, variable annuities have a lot of fees. That can really detract some folks. So let's just say, for example, when you figure out the mortality expense fee and some other fees that they have kind of lodged in with expense ratios and things like that, when you look at that on those particular sub-accounts, because the sub-accounts are mimicking mutual funds, okay? Mm-hmm. So we look at all these fees, and let's just say we get to the end of the road and we figure out that your fees are 2%. And your variable annuity is doing great. It's making 8%. Well, that's taking away 25% of your gain because you're only making 6%. Right. And that's going to have a big effect on your overall return. Now, if you have a variable annuity, I don't prefer them. I prefer fixed index annuities because that's on the insurance side of the business. Variable annuities are on the investment side of the business. If you want to do investments, I'd suggest that you do them directly within. So if we want insurance, let's look for actual insurance. On the other side of things, let's look for the investments. So we like to do a lot of ETFs and equity ETFs simply because equity ETFs have some tax advantages to them. And then ETFs in general have lower expense ratio. Our expense ratio within some of the market guard portfolios that we use are very, very low. That's where we're able to save people because we are actively managed portfolio managers. And when we do manage your money, essentially, you're going to realize we're not the cheapest out there. But where we do save you money a lot of times is the expense ratio. And we tend to do very well with investments for you. So if you're looking to invest your money differently in the market, I suggest we start with a report, analyze your situation, and then see where we can make some adjustments. Then in addition to that, just understanding what kind of income you might need in retirement as well. So I had a gentleman, we ran a report. He wants to retire in about 5 years. And we ran this report. It was with a different brokerage firm. And when I looked at this, I was like, so this guy's charging you about 1%. Let's look at the expense ratio. How much is this expense ratio? I was floored. His expense ratio is 1.41%. That's really high. Ours is a lot lower than that. So when I added up our actively managed portfolio fee, which includes the registered investment advisory firm and then me as investment advisor representative, and I added up our expense ratio versus his fee and his expense ratio, we were actually going to be saving him money. And that's where we want to look. We want to see where can we save you some money. So yeah, if you're making 10%, but you're getting hit with 3% in fees, you're losing 30% of your gains. And what we want to do is mitigate that.
Yeah, I think that that's something that will be a bit of an eye-opener. If you are packing all your money into a 401k like I am, and that's your portfolio, and you're now in your 60s, you now have the opportunity to move that money from your employer plan and roll it into your own IRA, which opens yourself up to all that's out there, including Market Guard. And just a simple move like moving from mutual funds to ETFs can change the whole landscape of fees, can't it?
Absolutely, because mutual funds, not as a whole, but they tend to have higher expense ratios. You know, I was looking at a few different ones that were ranging from 0.7 to the higher ones, and that's high. Now, you could have some groups out there like Vanguard that keeps lower expense ratios, but then again, how are the investments performing? Because I tend to see that when I look at ones with low expense ratios, a lot of times they underperform as well. I'm not saying all the time, but they tend to. So how can we have a combination of both? How can we have fair amount of fees, but good growth potential? Well, let's just look at that and see if we can analyze that for you. So let's try to cut back on the fees. And then there are annuities out there that have surrender charge schedules. So as long as you don't withdraw more than 5 or 10% in a year, you're not going to get penalized. And some of those contracts actually don't have fees attached to them. Some of them do and some of them don't. But we can pick ones without fees and just surrender charge schedule. And as long as you stay within, depending on the contract, 5 or 10% of the withdrawals per year, you're not going to get hit with any additional fees. And that's another place where people will look as well.
If you ask people out on the street, do you think you're paying any financial fees? They'll look at you and go, no, I'm in a 401k. I don't pay fees. Well, guess what? You do. Yeah, you do. And you might be shocked to find out how much is going to those big companies that are making commercials during your NFL games. There's a lot of money going there, and that's how they stay in business. Good people, but Fidelity doesn't work for free. So not just picking on them. Everybody's pretty much the same. There's going to be something in there that you're going to discover, and that's one of the things that we'll uncover for you as we do an analysis of your portfolio, whether it's individual stocks, IRAs, a 401k, whatever it is. Let's put it under the microscope. Let's figure out how you're doing with it. Let's figure out what it's costing you, and let's figure out if we can help. Here's a number. Here's our website, moretoretire.com. And right there, you're going to see our 5-step process, moretoretire.com. And there's a place there actually for you to put in a little information and for our team to reach out to you. So you can do that at the bottom of the page. Or 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984. All right, so one of the reasons we have this show is to introduce you to Mark and what he does and help people retire. Only about 25% of people actually use a financial advisor. But when people come in, what's the number one mistake that tends to need to be fixed? And according to advisors, this is through Go Banking Rates, they are focusing too much on their saving number and not on their income number. So, Mark, when people walk in Do they kind of walk in with a lot of pride if they've saved $1 million, $1.5 million, and they're not really thinking about what that does for them per month? And they may have a lot of expenses, and that $1.5 million may not make it through their retirement. Talk to me about where their focus should be and how you help.
Income is key. We have a career. We're making income. So we rely on that income to pay the bills and do these different things. And obviously we have to have a good amount of income to pay off our debt and get our kids through college and braces and all that stuff. I have my first two daughters, they're 24 and 20. One's out of college. She works with us. Her name's Ariana. She works with our business. My second oldest kid, Callista, she's 20. She's at ECU right now, and college ain't cheap.
Yeah.
My third kid, Finley, she's 12 and she's in braces. Braces aren't cheap either. And my 8-year-old Stella, you met Stella.
I love me some Stella. She's funny. she is great.
She is sweet. She's beautiful. And she's a handful too. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. She looked at me and I said, I'm the guy on the radio with your dad. And she goes, you really? And I go, do I look like I sound? And she said, yes, you do. And I said, so I look like a really good looking middle-aged guy who's really smart. She goes, yep. I like you a lot, Stella. Anyway, you're right. You've got 4 girls and you are in the midst of a lot of expense, and that's a different kind of expense when we get into retirement. Those kind of things might go away in some way, shape, or form, but there's still lots of expenses that need to be handled in your retirement years.
Yes. I have some clients that retire with debt, but it's debt that's manageable. It's debt that they're using, like let's say for properties. So let's say they're hedging. So right there, they're just kind of borrowing money because, they're getting rental income and things like that. I get it. That's a part of it because eventually that rental income will pay off that debt. So we don't worry about that stuff as much. But other than that, for folks, I'll give you an example. A lady, she was be coming up on 68 years old, came in my office, and we figured out she had just gotten laid off. Does she need to get another job within the industry that she's in? Well, we figured out that if she turned on Social Security, took the little bit of pension that they had offered, that more than likely that was going to handle her bills. And in addition to that, the excess money, we just get a little bit more conservative with what she's got in her portfolio, build half towards an annuity, half towards market money, grow the market money, build the annuity money, and then use the excess annuity growth for eventual preparation for inflation. So this is important because we made sure one thing happened before I gave all those recommendations. And that was she had a line of credit that she had dipped into at the brokerage account. I said, you need to pay that off. Then we looked at credit cards. She had about $20K in credit cards. I said, we got to pay that off. Once we did all that, that removed a lot of the strain there. So she realized this can happen. We can accomplish this. And that was really important to understand that when we get to this point in retirement, we need to analyze what kind of income we're going to need in retirement, but we also need to prep for taxes and we need to prep for inflation as well.
Yeah, when you sit down and you build out what your income is going to be and your needs in retirement, I've done this myself, and about 3 or 4 years into my retirement, we're going to get rid of our mortgage. And then all of a sudden, whoop, look at all the money I've got now. I got another $1,000, $1,100 a month that I can spend. Imagine if you went into retirement and you got that taken away right before you went in. This is a good thing. Figuring out what you need, what your bills are. It is kind of a budgeting process, but at the same time, it's kind of exciting to understand and learn what you can do and what your income is going to be. I would love for you to have that meeting and you to walk out of the office and go, holy cow, if I retire, I'm going to make more money then than I'm making while I'm working. And that's a pretty good day. Give us a call. Give us a look at our website. Let's sit down and do your retirement math. Let's figure out where you are right now. Even if you're 3-5 years away from retirement, let's do it now and get going on this so that you can plan and have the retirement that you always wanted. MoreToRetire.com is our website. Real easy. MoreToRetire.com. Spell that out. And down at the bottom of the page, you're going to see a place where you can put some information in. And that'll give us what we need to give you a call and start the conversation. You can also just call us. It's 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984. We're going to take a quick break, and there's a lot of things, as I've said before, that get in the way of your retirement. A lot of forces pulling at your money. Which ones do we really have to pay attention to? Is it just the stock market, or is it more? We'll take a look. Coming up next on the Mark Osler Retirement Experience.
A simple piece of paper. It's something we use every day. For the most part, it does what it's designed to do. It sits there flat on your desk as a placeholder for information. But with a couple strategic folds, suddenly your flat piece of paper becomes an airplane and flies across the room. Your 401k is kind of like that flat piece of paper. It just sits there as a placeholder for your money. Mark Osler can show you those strategic moves to take your 401k from just sitting there to creating the income you need for retirement. Call today for a free no-obligation meeting. 984-300-1984. That's 984-300-1984. Or online at moretoretire.com.
Welcome back to the Mark Osler Retirement Experience. Online, it's moretoretire.com. If you have thought about this but not really moved on this, you see your friends starting to retire, you know that it's not that far away, but you really haven't had a meeting about how it's all going to work, give Mark a call. Let's sit down and talk through your questions. Again, moretoretire.com or 984-300-1984. All right, so we know that the markets are a big concern for all of us. Our 401ks go up, our 401ks go down, and I hate the roller coaster. But that isn't the main thing that you should focus on when it comes to your retirement. Yes, it's an issue, but Yahoo Finance says people also forget about these: inflation risk, interest rate risk, tax risk, and longevity risk. That might be a new list for a lot of you. So let's go through these one at a time. We all know about inflation, and inflation has to be built into your retirement plan. Are people aware of that? Is that something they think about, or is that kind of a, we need to do this, and their eyes go, really? I didn't know.
Yeah, absolutely. So inflation's a key one because we just saw the most massive inflation, since 2022. I mean, it was, gosh, Randy, I mean, how do you plan for that type of inflation? You do it at the beginning. For example, let's just say I've been in the same house for 21 years. Now, we bought this house, that means in 2004. Well, our property value stayed flat for a very long time here in Cary, North Carolina. Well, what did it do eventually over time? Eventually, it just shot straight up. Why? Because it had to catch up at some point. Interest rates were being held down for so long, it held property values down. We never were really suppressed in this area, but we were just held back. And then eventually they shot up. But if you take those 21 years and you just add up about 3% growth on the real estate property, till now, you pretty much come up with the number and the figure of where we're at. So if we plan for a 3 or 4% inflation now through, while you're retired and in retirement and do that, then that's going to help us accomplish maybe some particular income needs. This is really important to do. I'll give you an example. There's an annuity with a company that I really like that gives index earning credits as the rate of income you get as an increase. So for example, let's say you were getting $1,000 a month from this particular annuity. And let's just say the index went up 5% for that year and you're already drawing that income. Well, now that $1,000 a month is $1,050 per month. And then it keeps doing that. So as the index credits keeps coming in, now you say, well, what if that draws down my asset and eventually it goes away? Well, that's fine, but it's a lifetime income rider. So it'll continue to go up and it'll continue to increase even when it hits zero, the way this product is drawn up. So not all products work that way, but that's the way this particular product is drawn up. And that can also help with the rate of inflation in retirement when you're drawing income. So increasing income in retirement can make a huge difference for folks.
Yeah, I think if you need $6,000 a month now, in 10 or 20 years, you're going to need $12,000 or $10,000 at least. And that needs to be built in. Would you take a job that you never got a raise? Probably not. You want to be in retirement and never get a raise? Probably not. So that's got to be a part of the particular plan. Now, interest rate risk. Gosh, there's a lot in the news right now. President Trump wants interest rates lower because we're paying a lot on the debt. Jerome Powell says the data's not there, and so he's sitting still, and then the fighting begins. So how are we caught in the middle? What do we need to know about interest rates, and why should this matter to us?
Oh, this is a great one, Randy, and I love talking about this. So if Trump just continues to pound on that door, is that going to change anything? No, it's not going to change anything because Jerome Powell is going to wait for the data. he's gonna say, okay, it looks like now we can reduce an interest rate 0.25%. So these are the conversations that occur once they see that the data points to it. But inflation has to level off in order to do that, because otherwise you're manipulating the system. And when you do that, there can be some drastic effects. And we saw that for several years, with low interest rate environment. It actually had an effect that was a negative effect on us. The people that it didn't hurt are the people with a bunch of money. They just took advantage of the system, and there's nothing wrong with that. They saw opportunity, investment opportunity. The people that hurt were the people that were borrowing money, in and out of work, those types of things. And that's where it really hurts. So interest rate risk, here's a perfect example. Let's say you want to get into a CD right now, and let's say it's a 12-month CD. And let's say the bank's offering you somewhere in the neighborhood of around 4%. Well, the risk you have is those 12 months. Those 12 months, what if Jerome Powell realizes that everything's leveled off at that point, and now we can start reducing interest rates? And let's say over the course of those 12 months, interest rates drop 0.75%. So now when that 12 months is up, your rates are going to be a lot different at the bank, but your rates are also going to be different with annuities. So I had a guy that told me, I don't want interest rate risk. I have this X amount of dollars over here. I'd like to put it in a multi-year guarantee annuity for 10 years. Let's just say it's a lot more than that 4% interest rate. And it is. But then on top of that, they're locking in that interest rate for 10 years. I would call that not an interest rate risk based on the environment we're in, because we're actually in an environment where interest rates are fairly high. So that's actually the opposite side of the spectrum. And that's where people can actually make out.
And the next one on our list here of the things that you need to focus on, not just market risk, but also inflation's interest rate risk. The next one is tax risk. And that's one right now. I mean, we talked about the big, beautiful bill. And one of the things that's happening is laws are changing. For instance, on Social Security, if you're 65 years of age or older, you're going to get an extra $6,000 for a tax deduction, and that's going to help you with your taxes, with your Social Security taxes, all those different things. So that's a positive, but there can be some negatives as well, and that's why I think it's really important to have somebody like you in our lives who can keep track of that and say, okay, here was our strategy under these laws. Now we have to switch because they switched on us.
That's why we have to pay attention to legislation. As we follow the laws and understand exactly what's going on, just like when we bring up the Secure Act and the Secure Act 2.0 and all of this stuff, right? So understanding exactly how this has an effect on you, well, taxes have a drastic effect on your retirement, and we want to make sure that it's a good effect. We want to make sure that we're prepared for it. So how do we prepare for it? Know the laws. Prepare ahead of time. We did some preparation for a client of mine many, many years ago because we were worried about estate taxes. Estate taxes aren't an issue now. That's called the death tax, of course. That's not actual income taxes. That's just a tax based on a person passing away. And let's say they, had too much money above that limit, and they said, we're going to tax you 40% of that amount above that limit. It happened to Joe Robbie, who used to own the Miami Dolphins. He died without an estate plan, and it happened to his family. So these things do happen. So if you're worth quite a bit of money, you do want to make some preparations for this as well. So it's not just about income taxes. There are estate taxes out there if you got serious appreciable assets. That's why we introduce estate planning to this too. We bring in the attorneys right down the road from me, Beringer Sasser. They do a great job. And there's a lot of folks that really are happy working with those guys. And I'm hand in hand making sure that we make good adjustments. They've got a CPA on staff that's also an attorney, so we can do tax advantage strategies there as well. And that's really important to understand, what do your taxes look like in retirement, and how does it also impact inflation as well, because we got to prepare for both of those two things.
Last one on our list here is longevity risk. And it used to be that nobody wanted to get into retirement and then pass away in 1 year. You save your whole life and you get a pension and all that, and then you pass away and you don't get to enjoy it. That used to be the fear. Now the fear is, I'm going to live too long and I'm going to outlive my money. I'm going to live to my 90s. I'm going to go to 100. And that is also a risk of retirement that we have to address. Do you actually look at families, Mark, and say, how long did mom live? How long did dad live? I mean, what's your health like? I mean, those are probably questions that come up that people aren't really thinking that that's going to be a part of retirement planning, but it is.
Yeah, we talk about this with the families. I want to understand what the family history looks like. Sometimes there's not enough family history or no family history. So sometimes we don't know. But essentially what we'll do is we'll just take where the person's at health-wise now and understand how we can make the money last. The last thing you want to do is see your money not last for you. And I have a couple right now that, truthfully, I've had the conversation a couple times, and we're going to have to re-engage and have another conversation because I'm concerned about the amount of money they're pulling out of this portfolio. They're clients that I inherited some clients based on some annuity products they had, and they weren't really the appropriate annuity products, but I haven't switched them because it wasn't appropriate for me to switch them. What we need to do is figure out what's a healthy level of income, because I don't want to see them run out of that income. Because if they do, how is that going to affect their bottom line, their bills, and everything else? And one of the things that people bring up is, well, if I get in a situation like that, I can do a reverse mortgage. I get that. I understand. I'm not going to make any specific comment about that. What I can tell you is some people do that if that's what you think you need to do. But that's not something I'm going to sit here and just recommend for you.
Gotcha. You're listening to the Mark Osler Retirement Experience. And when we think about retirement, we think about the risk to our money. And a lot of times that's just market risk. That's all we think about. But there's a lot of other things out there that are pulling at your money that we have to have a strategy for. Taxes and interest rates. And we talked about inflation. We talked about longevity. All these different things that we have to guard against. It's like you got to build a moat around your retirement castle. Let's do that. Here's our website and here is our phone number to sit down and start that kind of planning. More2retire.com. That's our website. More2retire.com. Down at the bottom of the page, a place for you to put a little information in there. Mark's team will reach out to you. Let's get the conversation going. Say, what is it that we can help you with? That's really where it starts. You can call us as well, 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984. Well, you've probably heard this one. This comes from the Census Bureau. It says that 10,000 baby boomers turn 65 every day. Now, that doesn't mean they retire, but what it does mean is they're starting to make decisions about Medicare and Social Security. Now, Jill Schlesinger, you've probably seen her. She's in the CBS Morning Show, and she's talking to Teresa Gilarducci, and we've heard from her before here on the show as well. And here they're talking a little bit about Social Security.
There's been a 13% jump this year in people claiming retirement benefits early, despite permanently reduced payouts. Would that then argue that you should claim Social Security early?
Because no, not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. Wait for the maximum benefit. Don't haircut yourself now, anticipating it will be cut later.
This is a big decision, and this is one that weighs on all of our minds. When do we take Social Security? Some people got to take it early. We understand that. Some people want to push it out till later. Some people can wait till 70. Only about 2% of people wait until 70. So it's kind of uncommon for people to wait that long. But Mark, what do you do to figure out what is best for people as far as their Social Security decision?
Well, with the example I just gave recently about the lady who came to my office, it was the right time for her to turn on Social Security at that moment, which was around 67 years and maybe 10 months old. And it was just the right timing for her. Now, most people are turning it on at the earliest age, which is 62 right now. That's the most common age. Second most common age is 65. Third, 67, and fourth, 70. It's going right in the age range. Now, 70, that's where you're maxing them out completely. But the age I like is 65 and 67. They're two of my favorite ones. 65, okay. I really like, Randy, because if a person wants to retire, turn on Social Security, get on Medicare all at the same time, it's ease of use. It's a lot easier to plan that way if a person wants to do it that way. Now, if they want to still work, then I suggest don't turn on Social Security till at least 67, because if you still want to work, you don't want to get a haircut on that too. You don't want to get pulled back or penalized by the Social Security system. So basically at age 60, 67, for most folks, it's age full, and that age full just means you can make as much income as you want, in terms of your career or your job, and draw Social Security at the same time.
Well, there's a couple of different factors that come in here. People talk about what's called the break-even age. Explain what that is for me and how that factors into the decision.
It's not hard for me to calculate that. For example, let's say you turn on Social Security at 67 versus age 70. Well, we just calculate how much money you made from 67 to 70. And then what the difference would be if you turned it on at 70 and see how many years it took to catch up to age 67 with the amount of income you came from the shortage. And that's how we analyze that. So the difference is the break even. And sometimes the break even could be 8-10 years, just depending on the person. So we just want to calculate that individually for each of you.
The other thing that I hear that people take into consideration is, I think last week we talked about a guy who said, I'm going to draw from my 401k and let my Social Security grow. Is that a good idea? And one of the things that factors into that is you can pass on your 401k. You can use that as a legacy to give to your kids. You can't pass on your Social Security. So pulling from Social Security first and then 401k might be another decision that you make. But again, how are you going to know unless you do the math, right?
Exactly. I mean, Randy, when you brought that up on another segment on a show of ours, I truthfully, there's no way I would do that. I would absolutely draw Social Security before doing that because you could lose out. If you die, they're not going to just back pay you for all the years that you didn't take it. It's the government. Come on. Are they giving out things for free?
A lot to discuss when it comes to that. And it is one of the big decisions that we're all going to have to make. And that is when to take Social Security and how it factors in with everything else that you've saved. At what point will you start taking that benefit? How does that apply to taxes for you and your income levels, all the different things? Let's do the math on your retirement. Let's go through the 5-step process here. Give us a call. Give us a look on our website, moretoretire.com. That's the website, moretoretire.com. There you'll see our process right there. At the bottom of the page, there's a place for you to put a little information in there, a little contact information, and our team will give you a call and say, okay, what is it that you're concerned about? How can we help? You can also give us a call at 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984. Now, Mark will mention different types of products, different investment vehicles, different things, and every now and then he'll mention an annuity, which is probably the solutions to developing income in your retirement years, replacing that paycheck. And some people hear that word and they just bristle. They go, I've heard bad things. So I wanted to bring this to the table because if you are looking for some kind of investment in your life, what is it that you're looking for? Give me a checklist. Tell me what your perfect investment would be. And I found this. It says, I want my money to grow. Okay, check. I want to be able to access my money. All right, check. I want protection if the market goes down. Check. I want the money to go to my family if I die. So there's your checklist. If you could find something like that would fill all of that, you would probably say that's something to look at. Well, guess what I just did? I described an annuity. I mean, Mark, I know that there's sometimes you got to fight off, I've heard bad things. But at the same time, when you look at what that does, what an annuity does, it can be appealing to people when you start to break it down and get a little education involved.
Yeah, one of the things that people always want is to have their cake and eat it too. So let's just discuss first the income angle. The income angle is maybe they want to do a lifetime income rider, which provides guaranteed income for the rest of their life, or maybe for them and their spouse, depending on if they added that on as well. And that's usually at a little bit lower of a rate of income. But what'll happen is if you draw down so much of that money and the asset's gone, the income will still pay you the rest of your life. So then a person will say, well, I'm drawing down that asset. Okay, but this is only a portion of your money. What are we doing with the other money? We're growing it. So here we are. We can grow your money. We can also get you a lifetime income rider if you need it. So how do you grow your money safe? Well, an annuity can have, let's say, for example, a fixed index annuity. They use a staircase method. Let's say there's an annual reset. Annual reset means that, let's say your annuity grows by 6% in a particular year. So it goes from $100,000 to $106,000. And then that year is up. What'll happen is that gain will lock in, just like stepping on a staircase. So when you step up on that step, there you are at 106,000. If that in particular index declines by 4% the next year, it'll just go smoothly straight across like an escalator, more like a treadmill, just straight across. But not drop, okay? So you'll still be at $106,000. And so now you're saying, okay, I want to protect my money and grow it too. Now, it's probably not going to return as much as the things are in the market, but you're going to have some solid returns if you pick the right particular products and if you pick some good indexes. But I also recommend being diversified. So that's another example of growing your money and growing it safe. So you're describing an annuity for income first. Then you're describing it for asset protection while looking for growth potential. But we won't say protection, we'll say preservation. And then access to your money. Most annuities allow you to have 5, 7, or 10% penalty free. Well, you're not going to try and draw out the house for it, right? When you're in retirement, you're just trying to draw out a certain level of income because you're not trying to draw down that asset too much. But income riders are different because you're getting that certain amount of income. So now you do have access to money penalty free. And then you say, well, fees could be an issue too. Well, we can eliminate the fees if we need to. There's always a surrender charge schedule with annuities, but as long as you stay within the free withdrawal privileges, you're not going to get hit with those transaction penalties, right? And then you're talking about your family. Well, annuities are direct beneficiaries, so they're probate free. So they're going to go to your beneficiaries, whoever you list, directly. And we can make sure that depending on what you want for tax efficiency, that we have those conversations with your family members as well.
I think some of these things that are on this list are things that people have heard from products that were 20 years ago. I don't have access to my money. I can't get at my money. It's locked up. It's not true anymore. That money, if I die, all that money goes back to the insurance company. That's not true. My wife and I went shopping the other day and we ended up in the Apple store. She's a real techie. She loves the latest things and she's going to get an Apple phone, another one. And I think we're up to like 17 is the next one. And when you think about what an iPhone was, think about the iPhone 1 and now think about what the iPhone 17 is going to be. Okay. It's not even close. The advancements that have been made in phones are incredible. The advancements that have been made in financial products and for us baby boomers, because they understand what we want and what we need in retirement, it's the same kind of thing. They have made advancements from 20 years ago. And Mark, you've been in this business for quite a while. The products that you have now compared to the products you had back then is kind of like night and day, isn't it?
It is. And if you Google how long it took somebody to create a can opener versus the amount of time we had canned goods, the amount of time was 50 years. So
I know it.
Yeah.
We had cans for a long time before we had can openers.
Yeah. 50 years it took somebody until they created a can opener. So people would ask me, well, what do they do? I guess chisel away. But with annuities, yeah, it's the same thing. And financial products in general, you know, the market guard models, they evolve too. Structured notes evolve as well. You know, we have a dual directional note that's pretty cool. It just means that you could make money in an up or down market depending on the indexes that it's attached to and how that works. So there's so many cool things. But annuities, I'm just going to tell you, in the last 6 years alone, if you bought a product in the last, we'll go 3, 4, 5, or 6 years old, come see me, because more than likely you got in when interest rates were low and the product is priced a lot differently than some of these newer products that have come out. So we should have a conversation about if it's suitable for you.
Well, give us a call and let's sit down and talk through it. Let's talk about what you have right now. Is there something better? Even if you're in retirement right now and you work with somebody and they kind of set you on a course, things change. The economy changes. Taxes change. Products change. Your needs will change. There's a lot out there that can change, and you need to change with it. Give us a call. Let's talk through it. Let's do the math on your retirement, put you through the process, and see what comes out. Give us a call. Give us a look on our website, moretoretire.com. That's moretoretire.com, or give us a call, 984-300-1984. 984-300-1984, and let's get that conversation started. Mark, we have just a couple of minutes left here. I wanted to save this for the end. We talk about how many people actually use a financial advisor in their lives, but what is the benefit here? And there was an interesting study that was done by Northwestern Mutual, and it talked to people 18 years of age and up, not just retirees. And it said, with a financial advisor, how many of you feel financially secure? 66%, as opposed to 31% without an advisor. Will you achieve your goals? Those who didn't have an advisor, about 50%, but with an advisor, 68%. Can you endure the up and down of the market? Without an advisor, people, 30%. With an advisor, 73%. So there's a lot of people that believe that having your kind of help really does help them feel better and maybe even more success in their retirement. I mean, you could probably see that when you see people in the office and the plan is out there in front of them and suddenly they have a whole new outlook.
Oh, almost definitely. They almost seem relieved when we start to work together. The average person out there is not a financial guru. They're coming to me because they want to know, can I retire? Or when can I retire? Can I deal with the ups and downs? Well, specifically how much money we have in the market. The objective is to put your mind at ease and let you know if we put together the right plan and we adjust it over time, because that's part of our process, that you're going to be just fine. And that's why those people feel that way. Financial advisors as a whole, I think, do a solid job. There are some outliers out there that I think they're a little lazy. You know, they don't do their job like they should. For me, I just want to make sure that I'm giving the person exactly what they need. Suitability-wise, appropriate levels, making sure that based on the amount of money they have, they don't put too much money into annuities, because annuities have certain restrictions. You just want to make sure that the plan is level and based on what a person wants to accomplish. Hey, if you're 40 years old out there and you think you're too young to come see me, it's not true. If you built up a $100,000 portfolio or something like that, come on in. Let's discuss it. Let's see how we can grow that thing together and get you on a retirement plan. What I'm going to tell you, Randy, is that my objective is to make people's lives a little easier. So my whole thing is the Mark Osler Retirement Experience is an acronym for MORE. That's why our website is moretoretire.com. And if you go to moretoretire.com, the first thing we tell you is, hey, look, if you want to meet with me, you can go to scroll to the bottom of the page, and you can fill out that form, the submission form, and it'll come right into my email, and we'll look and we'll set something up for you. You can even get on my Calendly and all that stuff directly from my website and set up an appointment directly that way as well. And if you want me to run a report ahead of time, you can send your financial documents to my secure upload that's directly on my website. It's in the top right corner. That is a secure way to get me your information, and I'd love to be able to run it. Now, if you're afraid about account numbers and stuff like that, just ink them out, right? I don't have to see that stuff. But this is where we go. And then if you want to understand how we go about things, on moretoretire.com, just go to your financial pathway to more, which will be under our process. And our process guide just talks about our steps 1 through 5, the treetop view, discovering your retirement desires, personalizing your retirement plan, adjustments and changes, and ongoing support. And you're going to get that from us. I promise you that.
Give us a call. Give us a look on the website, moretoretire.com or 984-300-1984. Well, that's all for today on the Mark Osler Retirement Experience. Be sure to like and follow us on your favorite podcast app. And thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.
Insurance products are offered through the insurance business Mark Osler Retirement Experience. Mark Osler Retirement Experience is also an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through Impact Partnership Wealth LLC, a registered investment advisor. IPW does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by Mark Osler Retirement Experience are not subject to investment advisor requirements. Investing involves risks, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing carrier. This radio podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be considered as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Mark Osler Retirement Experience is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during the show shall constitute legal or tax advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein are provided by third parties that have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Mark Osler Retirement Experience. Market Guard is a firm that provides investment signals as well as portfolio allocation recommendations for a wide variety of model portfolios. Market Guard does not offer advice or enter into fiduciary relationships. Please remember that converting an employer plan account to a Roth IRA is a taxable event. Increased taxable income from the Roth IRA conversion may have several consequences. Be sure to consult with a qualified tax advisor before making any decisions regarding your IRA.